Welcome to the Intrinsic First Leadership Podcast. I'm Aaron Robbins with Intrinsic First. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Be sure to stick around to the end for some debatably funny jokes that will hopefully leave you with a smile. And don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date on our latest episodes. We're here to support you, and we'd love to hear from you. So drop us a comment below or reach out to us directly at info@intrinsicfirst.com. Ready to dive into the world of leadership? Let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining us for another Intrinsic First Leadership Podcast. We are going to continue talking about the one-to-one context and continuing our discussion about the supportive leadership behaviors. So let's jump back into the leadership behaviors.
So we've got facilitating problem solving, we got listening, we got building rationale or giving rationale,
encouragement,
praising and encouragement, yeah. And the last one is asking for input, meaning that what do you think we ought to do? Asking a question like, okay, we're stuck here. Who's got ideas? Drawing the refreshing the well by refreshing the ideas that you've either gone by or passed and thrown out the window beforehand.
That's what I was thinking, is kind of collaboration.
Collaboration?
Right.
It's a nice
You're asking
word.
for input. I'm not telling you what to do anymore. I'm asking you what you think, and we can discuss and collaborate.
Yeah. So those combinations of what we're going to call supportive behaviors, coupled with the behaviors of showing tell-how and providing timelines and things like that, setting goals and so forth, all part of the combination of structuring and that's why I can say it is inspiring, because that's the words we're using.
And then the hard part is now figuring out when to use which ones at which times and which situations, because at any given time, somebody could be shifting even within, a 30-minute, 1 hour time frame. They could shift from high to low energy levels. They're not going to shift their competence so fast.
No, it takes a while.
They're going to take time to grow their skill over time. But when it comes to the energy piece, it can be up and down all over the place. And I remember when we were talking about, was it 12 o'clock high? Mm-hmm. And we were watching one of the scenes in there where he's having this discussion with his subordinate, and he's talking to him about, hey, this is what we need to do, and giving this very directive support. And then all of a sudden the direct report comes back, I don't know if we can even do this. And then boom, he switches over to a supportive and starts giving, encouragement or, asking for input. And then he's like, okay, you're right, maybe we can. And then boom, he's back to the directive, and he's shifting kind of back and forth as, even within a conversation, you're kind of giving more or less of that type.
Now, that was
of
a great
support.
example. I mean, I think when first time we watched that with you, it really clicked for me, like how fast it can happen and how skilled you as a leader. So, I mean, all of this takes a tremendous amount of practice. And so,
well, do you remember him saying the rationale? Do you remember what the rationale was? Jesse, if we can hang on here now, somebody's going to look up and see a solid overcast of American bombers on their way to hit the Third Reich where it lives. And he's bringing in the whole idea of why we're fighting the war, which is this is all tugging at the issue of wanting to go to war or wanting to do the task or get the thing done. He didn't praise too much.
no.
But he tried to brainstorm. He was saying, well, and he does also do a little bit of problem solving. So I wish you could help me, tell me what you're feeling right now. Remember when he says that, and he's listening to him. So never mind that example, but the young, what we're really trying to see is that is an example of somebody who's using both direction and focusing and inspiring behaviors, direction and support. And clearly, it hit the nose on the head because the guy he was trying to influence eventually agrees.
No, we should put a clip of that.
Oh boy,
it's really good.
Yeah. So now that leaves only what? Somebody who doesn't want to do it, has low motivation, has very little energy for expending the energy, the effort to do it. And of course, now they know how to do it. Their problem is what? They don't want to do it.
They don't have the energy or the confidence.
Yeah, it's either confidence or motivation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know too many people want to jump in a B-2 bomber, fly over Dresden, being all that flag, and saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this." It's really. So there are some things that people know they don't want to do. I mean, can you imagine? Oh boy, some of the stuff we see on TV today. In the trenches of Ukraine.
Yeah, so I mean, the military is a great example of an organization, multiple organizations, where you sometimes you just need them to take the hill, and so they use lots of tactics, I guess, in making that happen. So there's no question when it's time to take the hill, you got to take the hill. Or if you're on a ship and there's a fire, if you're on that ship, you don't typically run away from the fire; you run to the fire to put it out. The whole crew does that, and So understanding why some of those steps are important, it has to be done before the moment happens, right?
Yeah. So I hope that this section, and I will finally close it now, is that the last one is what people who are both highly willing to do something and highly skilled to do it, and those are the kinds of people that are in achieving stage, yeah, and those are the ones you get on your knees and thank God for, or thank the powers that be that you've got these highly skillful and highly willing people.
Although I think it's important to note that just because someone's achieving and they might be high in competence and they might be high in energy as well, it doesn't mean you give no leadership behaviors. There's still low levels of supportive and low levels of directive. So at a minimum, you're still going to do a little bit of active listening, and you're still going to do some goal setting.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Sure. And that's a good point. That's a good point.
Right.
That you don't treat them like mushrooms. That's where
you have one more phase that we've talked about in the book. What is it? Discerning.
Yeah, I'm about to do that.
Okay.
But I wanted to say you don't treat your highly skilled and high willing people like mushrooms, which is. Most of them most people say, well, it
gives you a power up.
Keep them in the dark, dump manure on them.
Oh,
right. Yeah. Treat people like mushrooms. Yeah. Keep them in the dark and throw poo.
Yeah.
We can't say bad words.
No, we can't.
Got to keep it clean.
Yes, we have. So, and last one now, there is the fifth phrase called discerning. And interesting about discerning is that it's not a question of wanting. They don't have the energy to do it because they've been doing it too long. They
get bored.
They get bored, and they want to get repotted, so to speak, replanted in new and better surroundings or new and better tasks or outcomes that are necessary. And discernment does not mean that they're bad. It just means that all of us get tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again.
So does that have to do with challenge then too? Could it be, to use your analogy, it could also be that they need a bigger pot, right? Their roots have maxed out and they need more room to grow?
I would argue that if we were speaking about the true discernment phase, it is, I've done it, and there's no amount of talk or discussion is going to do that. I can't do this anymore. I need a whole new frame, and that frame is reasonable. It's reasonable. Most of the good ones retire. Most of the good ones know when to retire. Get the signal, and they get out. They step out. So imagine. I imagine that you're going to see that in LeBron James in the next year or two.
So if you don't want that to happen, I mean, as a leader, you see someone going to this phase. I mean, what do you do? I mean, how do you avoid that, if at all possible?
You can't. I don't think you can. In fact, you should gracefully accept that as what the nature of.
Or you shift the
game.
task before they fall into that bored kind of state, right?
No, you're saying that's what I'm asking. That's what I was thinking.
Because like you think of flow, they say you got to have that right amount of challenge. And so if you shift them to a more complex challenge before they get bored with the first one, they may not hit the
See, my argument would be that the discerning player or the discerning worker has done it, and they've been in the flow enough, and they've been where a very rarefied air where nobody else goes. But it's nonetheless, I don't want to do it anymore. It's not of interest to me.
So I've had employees before where they've been doing it and they're kind of getting to the end of their career, and like, how do you motivate them? How do you keep them going? And what I've had success with is trying to steer them towards being more of a mentor for maybe some of the younger employees. I mean, maybe to prolong their
well, then you're
engagement.
changing the task too,
right? That kind of goes
because now they're not. The skill isn't doing the job; it's helping others do the job, which is a different set of behaviors.
And I think that works for a period of time. But I think what you're saying, Dre, is that eventually they will come. They'll be ready to retire. That's what I'm hearing you say. Because I think you're right. Changing the task helps, but I don't know if that's a short-term fix or if that's a long-term fix.
Well, so maybe it helps in certain situations, but you're still going to hit discerning in other aspects.
Well, find some of the best in the world do what they do. I wonder if Picasso, if I think about him as an unbelievably creative, high performance performer, but he got over the blue period he was in. I don't mean the depression. I mean, he painted all kinds of things in blues.
Right.
But he got over the blues phase. Then he got into some really good figures, human figures. But where did he wind up? In Cubism, where some of the Guernica, I don't know if you've ever seen that.
That's all the expensive stuff, right?
Yeah, very expensive stuff. But the point I'm making is that he for himself, stopped doing what everybody loved and started doing stuff that people didn't like, although they learned to like, and he created a new form of art called Cubism. Right. So the point I'm making is that the good ones keep going, but they have to do it on their own terms, and it's not the it that you're used to see them doing. It's out. They're out of it now.
But but it also then has to do with not context, but the level of where you're at, because you're talking about, well, are you at the micro task? Are you at the macro task? Are you at the goal level, or the job role?
If you call art, I suppose you could say, well, because
he's still painting. Right?
Yeah, that's the point.
But you're talking about. But some people may even get discerning about if you're just looking at painting it as a whole, as a hobby. Or
that's
something.
right. That's right.
So does discerning come after the achieving phase, or can it come
it
before?
Does. No, it has. There's something still there attractive in the achievement phase. Okay. But in the discerning phase, what's not there is any real passion for any strokes that had been done.
I think of like Barry Sanders, great running back, and he retired at the prime of his career. And so, there's lots of reasons. There's a special coming out for it, but he was achieving, and then he just lost interest in the sport. And he said, as soon as I stopped loving playing the sport, I know it's time to leave, even though he was at the pinnacle of his career. Mm-hmm. And I think of others that were kind of followed suit in the same way.
So I would say big picture, though, in terms of leadership and the skills that we're talking about, of all these different skills of providing focused versus inspiring behaviors, I would say that it's more important to understand how to recognize where a person is in terms of high or low competence and high or low energy, as opposed to understanding those phases of performance, because they're going to happen. It helps, and you can understand how that all works from, one step to the next. But regardless of what phase they're in, if you're good at recognizing that, aligning with them that, hey, I see that you're kind of low in your skill here, I'd like to provide some directive support. You get that alignment and you provide it regardless of which phase they're in. That's, I think, what's most important. Kind of what we're talking about here is, what are those skills to be able to one-to-one, leader to follower, to be successful, help someone grow, learn, develop, achieve, perform.
When my oldest was 15, she was a phenomenal swimmer. I think I might have told you this before, and she was just crushing most of the opponents she had in her scope of swimming meets, even in the zones, which is the one quarter of the last part of the United States. One day she came home and said, "Dad, I don't want to do this anymore." And I said, "Why?" She says, "I'm just tired of looking at the black line on the bottom of the pool." And she was putting 78,000 meters a week into the water. That's a lot of swimming. And there's nothing I could have said. And now she didn't get to the Olympics, and that was a dream of hers that she wanted. And so the ones that get that far are just even more incredibly ensconced in the art or the job they're doing. But there was no amount of, going to bring that back, no amount of any sort of analyzing of what, and she deserved that right to have that, to come to rest. You know what she did? She gave it up. And I said, well, you got to do something with your body, because you don't want to, you're in great shape, you got to stay in shape. And so she took up rowing. And when she got into that, she within six months, she won a San Diego Erg Championship, and bang, it was like scholarships were coming off the wall in rowing. Now, what she did do is apply that same understanding of what it takes to be good, and that effort is always rewarded by performance if you do it the right way. And she did it. And now, but she didn't go back to swimming. Right. And so you'd have to say, well, she quit. She's a discerning swimmer. But she used that same thing for other things in her life. And she still does that now.
But to use your Picasso thing, she could have potentially said, I don't like freestyle anymore. I want to do butterfly.
Yeah.
Right? And so she's still swimming, but she was discerning in a certain type of swimming. So there's all these
there's a little nooks,
levels.
But ultimately, if you're a good swimmer, she was competing in the fly, the back.
Sure.
Free. So, case, yeah.
So, I mean, when I hear that, I love that story, because I'm starting to put the pieces together. But I know many people will hear that story and say, "Oh, she burnt out." Do you consider discerning the same as
same as burnout?
And then there's so many studies out there trying to understand why people burn out, or why athletes burn out, and why does a performer enter the discerning phase? I
don't know if discerning is the same as burnout. Burnout
that's what I'm asking.
More associated with like obsessive passion and overdoing it.
It
right?
can
I think
be.
Discerning, you don't have to be burned out to be discerning. You just get bored over time. It's not that you're overdoing it or not getting enough sleep or you're stressed or,
Well, I don't think she got over burned out with winning. What she got burned out.
Never get tired of winning.
No, but what she got tired of is the prep at that level that she was at.
But that can be, and that is in my mind is still a definition of burning out. There's lots of reasons why an athlete burns out, and I always go to motivation. Like, do they lose their sense of autonomy? Are they doing that sport because that's what they felt like they should be doing because their parents? And that's a great one example. Or do they burn out because they just weren't getting good enough anymore?
Or they've done everything they can do in the sport.
Right, and that's just another form of burnout. But I love the way it's described as discerning, because and it coming after that achieving phase, that's just another way. I've never looked at it that way. So
well, she came through the period where she was winning a lot, and she also came through the period when she was losing a lot. So there's it's interesting to say, well, is discernment burnout? Burnout for me is the point he was making about you're giving up so much of the other parts of your life that you lose interest in what you're doing. Even what you're doing doesn't bring that back for you. And oftentimes, the good ones have to rest. And even when they rest, they go back. Well, Michael's a perfect example of that, Michael Jordan. Right. But in Lisa's case, I think she, from what I could judge, she was just tired of the preparation that had to go with doing it.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that.
I was looking up the definition of burnout. A state of complete mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
So different than boredom, but yeah.
It's got to be related, but I think there's
so let's conclude.
Are we going to wrap up again?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. It's so what I'd like managers to consider doing is to come to grips with how good are they in giving goal setting, methods of evaluations, showing and tell how, and so forth. Those beautiful directive behaviors or focusing behaviors, and the other side of it, of facilitating problem solving and active listening and sharing rationale and so forth. Building those skills into their repertoire of behavior, and then looking at the people they're managing and saying, I know that person. That person wants to do it but doesn't have the skills. Wants my job. My job is to provide the skills, either giving better instruction from my own point of view or better instruction by putting together with other people who are just as powerful or more powerful in the skill that this person wants to perform.
Right. And so from a leader, it's not only having those skills to be able to do that, but first being able to diagnose what's needed, then aligning of what you're about to give, and then actually delivering those leadership behaviors in that context.
Exactly.
And even knowing that you're in the context in the first place.
Right.
So, good.
That's great. That was fun. That was awesome.
Are you ready for my joke?
Oh, tell us, please. Go ahead.
Man, you already know it's going to be that bad. Huh?
No. I was going to jerk your chain and say, I don't think he saw us. Go ahead.
You can do the same joke, podcasts in a row.
I don't know.
So there's a squirrel and a frog in a hot tub. And the frog turns to the squirrel and says, it's hecka hot in here. And the squirrel says, holy cow, a talking frog.
That was terrible.
Don't you put anything but crickets. Holy what?
I couldn't say holy talking frog. It sounds better if you can curse, I guess.
Oh.
The squirrel said, holy a talking frog.
I know, but I don't.
Because the squirrel's talking.
Maybe it should have been a bunny. So there's a bunny and a frog in a hot tub. The frog turns to the rabbit and he says, it's really hot in here. And the bunny says, holy a talking frog.
It's closer.
No.
Thank you, though.
Let's do a different joke. I'm going to cut all that out.
I should pull my joke up here.
You got what?
I think so.
How many psychologists did it take to change a light bulb? One. Only one if it wants to really change. Yes. Cool.
Why don't skeletons get in fights?
Why
they don't have the guts.
That's a good child's joke. I like it.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
That's good.
We'll see you on the next one.
You got it. What is the next one, do you think?
Team.
Yeah.
Team.
Like organization.
All right.
Okay.
Congrats! You made it to the end of the episode. Thanks for tuning in. We genuinely hope that you found value in our conversation. If you liked it, please click that like button below and subscribe so that you can stay up to date on our current episodes. And if you didn't like it, you can click the dislike button, but make sure you click it twice. We're eager to hear from you, whether it's your thoughts, questions, topic ideas, or if you're interested in our leadership training and consulting support. Leave us a comment below or reach out to us directly at info@intrinsicfirst.com. We're open to any and all feedback. Thanks again for joining us. We look forward to having you back for more insightful leadership discussion. Until next time.